Ritter's trying to scoot in there alone. It pinballs to the crease.
Let's get it.
Oh my God! Here we go.
You're listening to the Street Bullies podcast with your hosts, Derek.
How you gonna get it, Bobby?
John. Matt Casey.
Unnecessary, but totally necessary.
And Cody.
What's not to love?
Ladies and gentlemen, we are gathered here today to realize the 2021-2022 Philadelphia Flyers season. How boring was that?
Bravo.
Right? That's what we plan to do here today. We are going to dish on the putrid season it was, but first and foremost, my name is Derek. Welcome to the Street Bullies.
I'm John. What's going on, everybody?
Matt Casey, what's up?
Hello. How are
And
we doing?
Hoagie.
Yo, what's going on, boys?
Here.
Hoagie is the yin to my yang with the energy. It's so good.
Love it.
Well, speaking of energy or lack thereof, again, we are here to talk about a terrible season, summing it up, and talking about some exit interviews as well as some actual hockey that's going to be happening here in the coming weeks, coming months as well, with some playoffs. We want to talk about the first round, what we're going to expect, and really just go from there. So to kick things off, John, I'm going to kick it over to you. Give me your final thoughts on what this season has been like.
You know, I've actually really been trying to think about this because I do think like the easiest thing is to just be like complete another failure and disappointment. But I just
It's a relief. That's how I feel. It's a
Right.
relief.
I really think it was just like doomed from the beginning. You know, like immediately with the injury issues. You know, when it was at what Ellison Ristolainen and Hayes right off the bat, or did Hayes play the first few games? I can't remember.
Even that, you had Wade Allison like game 2 of the rookie camp. Like
Right. Like I think Ivan Provorov said there was not one of the 82 games that the intended roster played together.
right.
And whether or not you want to say that that played a major role in the team's success, how does it not? You know, so I think that really, not to give it an excuse where I want Chuck to run it back, but this team was doomed from the beginning because they just constant injuries to everyone.
So to be clear, you don't want to run it back, correct?
Don't want to run it back. No.
Don't.
You
Like,
can't
do
run
not
it back.
want to run it back.
Do not want to run it back.
All right,
John wants
that's
to run it
clear.
back.
Perfect.
Yep.
John wants to run it back. Okay, Hoagie,
Got it.
your final impressions on this season.
You know, I'm gonna. I hate doing this. It's Scott Lawton that said it. You know, this team looked good on paper, which everybody said going into the season. And yeah, you can look good on paper, but if the product on the ice isn't doing anything, you're screwed from the beginning. So, I mean, we've said it as well. You know, the injuries are a reality, and we couldn't escape it. It's a crappy excuse, but they just couldn't escape that injury bug this season. So, and even the COVID bug too. It hit the team at a terrible time, and
Forgot about
right.
that.
Just so many things happened this season.
Right.
You're just like, oh man, that happened too. Like, oh crap, I thought that was last season.
Yet somehow Yandel made it through unscathed.
Right.
The suck just bleeds together. Oh, Matt Casey, your lasting impressions on a
Couple things. I mean,
Otherwise,
I want to, sort of mirror John's comments a little bit in that, you know, the injuries, it is an excuse. And especially after watching some of those player interviews, and I know we'll get into it, it's just like, man, we really were missing a lot of pieces that were absolutely vital to that team. And again, no excuses, blow next man up. It's like that works with like a third line winger, not
Right.
with
or one main injury.
right. Like, yeah, with one injury, not with like, 4 of your top players in the game out at any one time. But I'll say this. I feel a little bit more optimistic this year than I did at the end of last season. And number one is for the injury standpoint. Number two is I feel like we have turned the page from the 2010s era, which, Giroux was the last holdout in there. And, we all love Giroux. They're not here to bash on him at all, but it was just,
Speak for yourself.
we were just hoping that he was going to lead us, and it just didn't happen. And it's not all his fault or anything like that, but the page has been turned, and that's going to be reflected in roster changes. It's going to be reflected in guys that, need to get healthy. And then most importantly, in my mind, in the offseason is a coaching change. And that's going to be the biggest move that we see, in my opinion, first. I think that's going to happen in the next few weeks.
Well, it's a tone setter too. I mean, based off of who they hire is the direction this team is going next year.
100%.
Completely agree. Absolutely. This, in all actuality, was the perfect storm. Mm-hmm. And I say that in an imperfect way, obviously. This was just issue after issue, injury, COVID, just decimated by all this stuff. Well, anything that could have gone wrong went wrong. I don't know what law that is, but you guys know what I'm talking about.
Is that Murphy's Law?
Murphy's Law. Anything that can go wrong will go wrong.
Atkinson Law, because he actually said that in his interview.
Yeah, we'll call it the Atkinson Law. The law of Cam. But everything went wrong, and then it all snowballed and somewhat accumulated into our franchise forward, our captain, being traded away, likely not coming back, which that's it is what it is. It's its own discussion.
Coming back.
Shut up.
He's coming back. We're running it back, baby.
I hate you.
Traded Voracek for Atkinson.
We're gonna bring Yager back. It'll be great.
Yep, 50-year-old Yager still got it. Why not? What's the harm?
He still probably would have been like a top scorer on our team.
He would have been. He absolutely would have been. No qualms about it. But it really just was the imperfect storm of things that could go wrong, and all of them went wrong. And then we ended up losing Giroux for really pennies on the dollar when you think about it. And that was kind of that final blow that we were like, this sucks.
Right.
So, and no other way to put it for me. Yeah, it's disappointing. I've soured on this organization, and there's much more to it than that. But it's just complete apathy at this point. The last third of this season, I just really couldn't care less.
I will tell you one thing. I don't think I could be disappointed next season. I think I'm either going to be excited, and that could be in two different ways, right? Excited because we're winning, or if we've picked a direction of development, and it's like, okay, I have something that I'm at least looking forward to down the road. Mm-hmm. But my disappointment meter, I don't think there's anything that could disappoint me at this point.
The gauge is broken.
It's
just hanging there.
But also, on the flip side, I don't think there's anything that they can do this offseason that's going to just full-blown excite me and change my mentality. I'm going to be apprehensive about everything.
Right.
Look what happened last offseason.
Yeah.
I mean, is that because you don't think there's players that will excite you, or that you're just your meter is so far skewed that
right? I think that if we brought in a Johnny Gaudreau, I would be excited to have Johnny Gaudreau, but my expectations for this team,
right,
I would still be really hesitant, just because this past season proved that you can continue to tinker the roster as much as they did, and there are still things that are going to prevent you from freaking winning.
Right.
Like being a bad team.
Well,
that'll prevent you from winning a couple games. I'm no expert in this, but
I think overall it's skill, and it's also confidence, and you just saw that confidence fall off a cliff, and anytime you saw it start to peak, it's like, oh, let's just go on a 13 game stinker. Let's do it twice. Go for it. So I think that the confidence, and just there's sometimes that just players don't gel together, and that may have been the situation here, where we just had conflicting skill sets, and I don't think anybody's under the delusion that this team's going to be run back. But it's like, how much can Chuck really change? But changed a ton last summer. We'll see if you can throw the dice in the Yahtzee cup and roll it back out.
I mean, according to all the players during the exit interviews, which we can kind of segue into here, this is a close-knit team. I mean, a lot of the guys preached about how, we're not, finger pointing. We're not, looking at each other saying, why didn't you do that? Why didn't you do that? Like, it seems like a very close-knit locker room, which I wouldn't really expect any of them to say otherwise unless your name's Ivan Provorov. But regardless, these guys made it a point almost to say how close of a locker room this is. If we're going to talk, I mean, we'll get to a couple of the quotes, a couple of the things that were said by some of these guys. But if you guys wanted to, delve into one thing that you noticed, I know the one hot topic obviously is Provorov, but we can, whenever we want to get into that, we can get into that. But John, is there one main thing that you took away from either one exit interview or just all of them in general?
Ryan Ellis.
Yep.
Big one.
For sure. You know what I mean? Like, still a little murky, but it sounds like they have finally come to some sort of agreement on what is going to take place, and the goal is to be ready by training camp. I mean, It was just nice to hear from him, and get some sort of clarity. I mean, he even kind of went into the specifics of his injury, where it was like layered. Is there a cat?
Yeah, I don't know what the hell she's doing.
Of course it's Hoagie. Damn cat.
Cass just doesn't want to hear John talk.
But yeah, I mean, aside from the hot topic, which we're going to talk about, to me, that was the big one, right? Because, I mean, the last show, that's all I wanted to talk about was the fact that Ryan Ellis is going to make or break next year. Like, it doesn't, so.
Oh, yeah. It was nice to see him go in depth about that. And I'm sorry to cut you off, Matt Casey. Go ahead.
Go. No, I mean, probably the same thing. I wrote down, good for him for like stepping up and not being like, here is my statement. I will be going back into my cocoon now. Like he answered as many questions as he could. And my first comment was like, man, I feel like a dick after all the stuff we said last week. Like he seems like a guy I want to root for. Like sure. I want to see him on the ice, and like just seeing his professionalism on the microphone and how like just eloquent he was, and like he didn't want to overstep his bounds with the medical stuff. He's like, I don't know how to explain it. Like he's like, I'm not a doctor. He's the guy barely has a high school education probably because of hockey. But like, how can you not root for this guy to come back and really make a great comeback? Now, like, is that a giant TBD? Yeah, it is. And the fact that is the linchpin that holds everything else in there. But I walked away from that. I was like, good for him. Like, I want him to be back. I'm not like, I don't want to be a pissed off fan, be like, oh, he doesn't want to play. Like, I think we've been fed that spoon with Nolan Patrick and all that sort of stuff. But I agree with you. Ellis was the one interview I watched from start to finish. That was like 15 minutes. And I watched that whole thing. And it was funny too. He was like, yeah, I was 4 points in 5 games. What else could you want?
He admitted it was the hardest year of his career, which I think we all kind of could, read the tea leaves there. But I mean, when you face that much adversity, you're coming to a new city, a new team, admittedly that he loves Philadelphia as well. But he's working on a solution. He says that solution is healthier tissue, treatments, corrections, whatever it might be, But I did love the specifics of the pelvic region. That part is where he's focusing on right now, and that's where the injury's at. So you got enough information to know that we kind of know what it is now. It's just a little murky, like John had alluded to, as to exactly what it is. But at the end of the day, I don't care what it is. I said it last week. It could be a shaman performing some ridiculous ritual. If it works, I'm happy.
Right.
Yeah.
That guy's got to play 2 good games for the Flyers, and this fan base will be
right back on the horse.
Well, and from a PR standpoint, like he needed to have that kind of exit interview. Like
so did the team. So did the team.
Right. Yeah. But the fan base was ready to make him a villain.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, and at least for, the 5 level-headed fans that the Philadelphia Flyers have.
Present company excluded.
This will kind of settle things a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Sure, absolutely. Hoagie, your biggest takeaway here from the exit interviews?
I'll touch on Ryan Ellis real quick because very confident in just his responses. I mean, he was disappointed in himself for how the season went down. I hope I'm not echoing anybody, but I think he's the type of guy that we need in this locker room, and him being out of the lineup, not with the team all season, really hurt the chemistry in a way because, like, he said it himself. He's like, I bring that pedigree of we don't miss the playoffs. So, like, I think he's that guy that's really going to help pivot this team into a different momentum. I just hope Chuck reads off of that and brings in the right pieces. So,
right.
I'll tell you one thing that stuck out to me that I'm actually really impressed with is that during Cam Atkinson's exit interview, he said, I don't know if anyone really deserved that award this year, talking about the team MVP. I thought that was a really candid moment, and I really liked seeing that out of Cam Atkinson.
Right.
He needs to wear an A or something.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's it. I mean, one of the things that I'll say is, between Ellis and Atkinson, I think those are like just the way they present themselves and the confidence they have go through. Like they deserve that, the letter on their chest. I still think Coots will probably be the guy, assuming that he's healthy. Another big assumption there. But those are clearly two veterans who have been through this and understand how to reach a team. And like, just I watched the Ellis interview, and then the next one I watched was Sanheim, and like Sanheim could have a good. That guy could barely string a sentence together. Like he is as dull gets, and it doesn't reflect him as a player. But even like everyone who's like Kevin Hayes, what a funny guy. I'm like, Kevin Hayes like sounds miserable in every interview he's ever done.
That's that Dorchester accent, man. It's brutal up here.
Yeah. Just the overall candidness too of what he said. Like another excerpt I picked up on was when he said how embarrassing it was for the organization, the fan base, the city. Like the guy hit the nail on the head, and he didn't mince words. He was very straightforward with what he said. And I mean, you can't help but respect that. Not that there was any lack of respect towards Cam Atkinson to begin with, but that really showed you the type of person that he is. And he's just as hurt by this season, as anybody on that team for that matter. So it was great to see that bit of just, transparency and, getting a glimpse through his eyes as to how this season went for him as well.
One other takeaway, I don't know if you guys got this too, but this team really likes Mike Yeo.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
They really respect him. And this isn't me endorsing him for the head coach job at all, but, they really did seem to respect him. The younger guys really liked the way that he coached them. So I do hope that, they can keep him in the fold. Like, I don't know if it's possible where he would go back to being an assistant, but when you're trying to really change the culture of this team and you're presumably going to have a lot of young players, he seems like a good person to have around in some capacity.
Sure.
Right.
It's tough. I mean, you're going to ask a guy to essentially take a demotion heading into next year. It's like, could the guy find a job somewhere else? Maybe. I don't know.
A head coach
Not at the NHL, man.
No,
like,
but like, I'm also discouraged by the fact that late in the season they're practicing line changes, for Christ's sake. Like, come on. Like that hockey 101 here, guys. Like, come on.
I mean, I would
go
love
back to basics.
I would love him to be the head coach of the Phantoms, quite frankly. But
just swap him. Him and LePerrier,
Talk about interviews. Lappy had a really good one the other night, right?
Wait, what was that? What was it? He basically like said nobody had heart on that team. Is that what?
Pretty much, and just kind of like trashed everybody. Like, they're hurting their careers, they're not hurting mine because they're not playing for everything. Like, really took a dig into some veterans, pretty much.
So was it warranted or not? Let's get into that.
I don't know. I don't watch the Phantoms.
I mean, if he was saying it about the Flyers, I'd love it even more.
Right.
I think I look at that though, and that's a systemic issue overall. That it's like, okay, if it's happening with the big club and then with the Phantoms, like, okay, that's a big cultural issue. And Lappy may be a one and done kind of guy. I don't know.
He's not going anywhere. He's got pictures of somebody.
He took a puck to the
Way
face.
too long, man.
Yep. The
Yeah.
golden ticket. So again, we alluded to it earlier. After touching on Ellis here, let's touch on his partner or his prospective partner that we all hope can be his partner, Ivan Provorov. Very interesting exchange. I don't know the name of the reporter, nor do I care.
Jordan Hall.
It was Jordan
It
Hall.
was Jordan Hall that asked the question.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
Like the least asshole of all of them.
Yeah,
Right.
we've had him on the show before, and he was one of the friendliest people I think we've ever met. And I mean, to get that type of response just shocks me. But, you know, he asked him essentially, like, how would you grade out your season? And Provorov said, quote, no matter what I say, you guys are going to give me your own grades. You're all experts in hockey, so you're going to give me all your super experienced grades. Goes on to say, I don't need anyone to write any glory stories on me. Okay, pal, don't think anyone's writing a story like that unless you're writing for insert
Right.
name here.
Yeah.
But that follow up, you know, that the whole glory part was Jordan Hall followed up with has the media been too hard on you this season? Like
Softball question right there.
I think
Just be
Jordan
like-
Hall knows that answer right away. Like,
Oh yeah, they've all been hard on him, but rightfully so, right? I mean,
It's not hard on him if he deserves it.
exactly.
I got a different take on this. Like I don't disagree that like Provorov shouldn't have said that, but like I don't know. Like I don't disagree with the fact that he's like I shouldn't have to grade. Like you guys are going to do it. Like he has a point.
I completely agree. Yeah,
And
He does-
you know,
he
you look
definitely
back
does.
at some of the other, you know, leaders on this team, like Chris Pronger was notorious. And granted, Chris Pronger was in a league of his own, like,
Right.
you know, and he sort of earned that through his career. But he was notorious for just being like, that's a stupid question. Shut up. and like literally that blunt. You saw, you know, Mike Richards when you know, he was on something, you know, doing interviews. And he would just be like, you just asked the same question again. Like, you know, he would get visibly frustrated. And, you know, then you obviously have the Jake Voracek thing with what's his name
Sealski.
last year. And
Right.
so, like, you know, it's not that ridiculous. I think, like, could Provorov have handled it differently? Yeah, absolutely. But I don't disagree one bit that it's like, what difference does it take for him to grade himself? You know, he doesn't owe that to the media to grade himself.
no. But
Well,
I mean,
here-
like the PC answer would be like, it's an F. I sucked, you know,
Right.
and then you move on.
Right.
But that's not him.
I just think here's the thing. There's a lot of conversation about the heart of this team,
Mhm.
right? Whether or not they can handle things resiliently.
Mhm.
And he's one of those guys that there's a question mark with that, right? I mean,
Sure.
we've kind of removed a big core, right, already, where it's like him and Konechny are like this new group of people who are under the microscope and on the chopping block. And I just think for a guy who they criticize and say he has thin skin and is always looking at what the media says and all this stuff, that just was not the response.
Agreed. What he said wasn't incorrect, but
Right.
the undercurrent of it certainly does not help him one bit.
If you watch the video,
That's
once
what,
he said it, he knew he was screwed because like he's like, crap.
Instant regret.
He's like, no matter what I say, you guys are on, you know, give me your own grades. And he's like, and like you kind of saw him like kind of
That moment where you're like,
shit, I shouldn't have said it, man, but I got to roll with it now. Like,
And I don't think it was geared towards Jordan Hall.
No.
I think it was
No,
more
it-
of he was waiting. He knew somebody was going to ask that question.
yeah, it was
sure.
towards that whole room. Yeah.
Right.
And I think, you know, where I take, you know, kind of the double-edged sword here is, you know, I was listening to Flyers Daily, and I think Martinez does a great job, and he had who do you have? Who's the guy who comes on every Monday with him?
Bill Meltzer.
Meltzer. And Jason was like really pissed off about it. And again, I think he does a great job, but I was just like, really, that pissed you off? Like,
Right.
you know, come on.
I think it pissed off a lot of people, to be honest with you.
Really?
can we start a,
Talk about
Flyers.
thin-skinned, huh?
Can we start a Flyers daily reference count for Matt Casey? Because
I
feel at least
I
2
do
or 3
love it. I
times
think
an
it's so
episode.
good.
It's like, so I was listening to Flyers Daily the other day. Like, we should have them pay us, so that, you know. But regardless, aside from the point,
True. The other thing that I'll say, because I did want to watch the video of Provorov, so I was like, is the transcript just reading weird? Provorov just looks like defeated. Like
Done.
he just looks like he has just had it. And granted, he is the only person who played like anything close to a full season on that D line besides Yandel. So like, and he's done it for the last 4 years, where he's kind of had to carry that defensive core, and it just looks like he is burdened right now. And that's why I think a change of scenery might benefit him as well as us in the coming off season.
I mean, that's what happens when you're playing 24, 26 minutes a night, every night in, night out. Like,
for a crap team.
Right. Yeah. It's going to get to you, and I think it has. It's tough. It's tough to watch.
I'll tell you another thing that did discourage me a little bit after reading through the transcript as well as watching it was when they had asked about Ellis. And Provorov said that he hadn't talked to Ryan in about a month or so. Mm-hmm. And not necessarily, maybe, again, I don't want to blow this out of proportion or make this a bigger deal than it needs to be. But, like, if that's your top pairing next year and was supposed to be your top pairing this year, I'd expect a bit more communication between the two. You know, I'm not talking like best buds.
What are they going to talk about, though? Like, what's there to be said?
Yeah.
I mean, just talk about hockey for you know what's sake. Like, just check on him, see how he's doing, like a status update, stuff like that. I mean, think about it. John,
status update. Ryan Ellis isn't giving anybody anything.
Well, no, but I mean, friends, like if John's going through something like that, he'd tell me. If I was going through that, I'd tell you guys too. Like that's something that, you know, buddies do that, you know, call work together, you know, but
I think though that's a big part of this, you know, and I was listening to a baseball podcast. I don't know why, but I was listening to a baseball podcast, and the guy actually said something pretty smart. He was like, we always look at these things and go, well, they have to be buddies. Like, this is their job. They work together, you know, and like, even if there's good chemistry on the ice or on the baseball field or whatever, that doesn't mean that they
have kids,
that relationship goes,
right,
you know. So Derek, I totally get what you're saying, but I really don't think that that's out of the ordinary. Like, Ryan Ellis isn't playing, you know, what are they going to solve? You know,
but like, aside from just like a status check, you know, once a week, just being like, hey man, thinking of you, hope you're doing okay. Let me know if you need anything. I don't know. Maybe it's me expecting too much. Again, not saying they need to be BFFs that are going to have sleepovers every Saturday night, but I mean, Christ,
that'd be cute.
Would be cute. Maybe put Ivan
like
in a
Wedding Crashers style. Oh, I guess it is weird that we get a sleepy bag.
Well, Ellis just got tired of him calling because Provorov could go, "Did you see what this guy wrote about me? God damn it!"
Speaking of like media and stuff like that, did you guys see someone ask Konechny, like, have you heard about any trade rumors or whatever? And Konechny's like, I don't have social media. I don't care.
Oh yeah. You had to think someone was going to ask that to somebody, you know, somebody bigger, you know, of the fish in the pond. But like, it might bother some of these guys. It bothered Voracek maybe. He blocks everybody on Twitter. But like, to a guy that doesn't have social media, that I'm pretty sure these guys asking these questions probably have a good pulse on who's got a Twitter, who's doesn't. You're going to ask a guy that doesn't have a Twitter. It's like, what do you expect him to say? Like, yeah, I go through my wife's Twitter and look at all the rumors. Like, nah, who cares?
It's definitely what Provorov does.
Could be. I don't know. I mean, but yeah, no. I mean, the only other thing notable, at least, or something to discuss with Provorov, like when they asked him about going back to Russia, if the team advised him, and he's like, "Let's stick to hockey." Can we like? And I'll get off my pedestal here in a second, but like, we just stop with this stuff. Like, we all know what's going on. It sucks. Like, it's unfortunate, but like, this is hockey. It's an escape for all of us. Can we just focus on hockey? Like, no one needs to know any of that crap.
Yeah.
If the reporter lived in Oklahoma, be like, oh yeah, you're gonna go down and see your, like, you know, tornado ridden, you know, community that's just you know, went through. Like, yeah, you got to just keep things on a level playing field and realize like what this is. Like, these guys aren't here as politicians as much as like we'd like to have that kind of stuff. So, and
especially like, know the person you're interviewing, right? Like, maybe some players you can get something like that out of them. This dude does not want to talk to any of you. It's clear that he's pissed off. He's fed up. He doesn't want anything to do with this.
That was the last question.
And now you're going to ask him about no, just
Right.
It was like the last question of the interview. Like, come on, like
Yeah.
And he had
Just
answered that.
ridiculous.
He'd answered that like 3 weeks ago or a month ago when this first started. He was just like, "No, let's just stick to hockey." And it's like, good for you. And it's like,
right.
you don't. It's not like that's out of the blue either. Artemi Panarin had to stop playing last year because the
Yeah.
Russian, like, he was freaked out about the KGB.
right.
I'll tell you another thing from another defenseman here. If we're going to switch gears from Provorov, I found it interesting that, and it could be a fun discussion. Sanheim, I did not know this, is our Players Association rep for the Flyers.
Since when?
I'm assuming it was Giroux. I believe
No, it's
so.
JVR.
It was that's right. It was JVR. So that even kind of intensifies this discussion, because if JVR is no longer the Players Association rep and Sanheim is, you can
See you
look it
later.
up. Yeah, I mean, it could be a sign of things to come. Does it kind of lend its hand to Sanheim sticking around for quite some time here?
I mean, I don't.
Go ahead, John.
I mean,
I think that he might be sticking around here, but I really don't think that the fact that he's the player rep has anything to do with it. I think that's a reach. Yeah.
okay. All right.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like one of those things where it's like you got to fill out a one form thing. They're not going through like an
Like how you join the
intense
podcast.
background check or something like that to be sure you're qualified. But he's obviously
Some of
not
these guys
going
aren't qualified.
right. So I don't know. I think it maybe there's some significance that they did transfer it over from JVR, especially. I was going to be like, oh, they don't do it on the last year of a deal, but Sanheim's on the last year of a deal too.
Right.
So,
Is there like terms to these? Like, I don't know. Like, can you only be a rep for so many years? Does the team elect it? Like, I know nothing about how that process works.
Yeah.
I feel like
no
you're
clue.
reading into it too much.
but I also think JVR has got to, I watched a bit of his interview, and talk about another guy that just looks like defeat.
He doesn't care.
Like, he looks like he's coming off a bender.
Right.
And I do
blame
hope
him,
he
though?
finds like a good place, but like we can't have him here again.
We're gonna.
Not at the start of the season. Absolutely not.
Can't have him.
If they want to make anything happen this off season, he can't be here.
He's a 25 goal scorer. Who wouldn't? Come on,
Stop it.
Who wouldn't want that?
Shut
Speaking of
I
goal
did.
scorers, how about Joel Farabee?
Didn't watch it.
One thing stuck out to me, and this is just me reading into him for his offseason. He's on to work on his one-timer. I think if Farabee can pull off a one-timer, that'll be dangerous.
I also saw that he wants to focus on his two-way game. And I just right then and there, I'm like, shut up.
No
Shut your mouth.
defense.
Shoot the puck. Work on that one-timer. If that's all you work on this summer, I'll be ecstatic.
I must have just stopped at the one-timer. Didn't keep reading because I got too excited.
Oh yeah, no, I saw that too, and I was like, awesome, great. I hope you can work on your one-timer this summer. That'd be fantastic. And he's like, I want to focus on my two-way game. I'm like, no. It's like a puppy with a spray bottle. Like, no, Joel, no.
The other comment that I was reading it when Frost, they're like, oh, are you sticking around to train? And Frost was like, no, I'm going home again.
Yes.
And I was like, huh. Interesting.
A lot of guys aren't sticking around, apparently. There was, York, Adder, Cates, Frost, Farabee, McEwen. I'm sure there's more. I'm sure a lot of them are going home to see their family.
Mm-hmm.
But that was such a big deal last year, or was it 2 years ago now, where Frost wasn't – it was the last year. He didn't stick around in the offseason. He didn't practice with the team, didn't train with the team. And then it was like, oh, where's his head at? Is he committed?
Right.
Is he, looking to make an impact with the Flyers? Does he want to be here? That was such a discussion last summer
Right.
that now it's almost like we're revisiting it because, Frost isn't going to be here this summer. Like, maybe it's just he wants to be home after a terrible season for a little bit. He's going to get back into the fold, but I don't know.
And I think maybe I'm taking the lens way too much of like a PR standpoint with a lot of these things, but I do think that like there are subtle things that players could be doing, whether it's Provorov just keeping his mouth shut or Frost saying, hey, you know what? I'm going to spend July at home and then come back for August, to train here. Like just little things to ease the mind of the people who support the franchise to be like, okay, yep, things are going to be different, because it's just magnifying those things that we've identified as problems, whether or not they are actual issues. It just magnifies it more when it's like, oh, it's not changing.
Right. I mean,
Sure.
you gotta be pretty intensive into the Flyers, like the four of us, to pinpoint one line in our third line center's exit interview and read and just blow it out of proportion.
I mean, but think about it. You know, what are we going to discuss tonight? I hate to say it that way, but I mean, these exit interviews do give us a little bit of a peek into what these guys went through this season, and then what's going to happen this offseason. Or what they're saying they're going to do this offseason could potentially give us a peek as to what their mindset is. And with Frost too, like there was some interesting tidbits about Yo, where he said that Yo knew how to challenge him, knew when to challenge him, and then also when to kind of build up his confidence. So to me, that kind of lends a hand to not necessarily being mentally fragile. I don't want to go that far, but like, think about it. You know, if you're at your jobs, like if your boss is going to tear you down and like you deserve it, like, are you going to use that as motivation? Or are you going to be like, hey, can you build me back up and tell me all the nice things that I've done?
Right.
I don't know. Again, maybe I'm being too
they
hard
always
on them.
say though that that's like the change in sports now, though, right? It's not like when they talk about good coaches, it's no longer like the X's and O's guys. It's the people who can relate to the players in the locker room and know like when they need a pick me up instead of a reprimand.
Yeah.
You know,
everybody needs a pick me up though. I mean, but you need to hear it when you're not doing well as well. Like
Right.
maybe
I
that way
agree
the
with
compliment means something, you know?
Right.
Yeah, exactly. It means much more when you're hearing it less often, because when you hear it all the time, it's essentially someone blowing smoke up your
It's
rear
white
end.
noise. It's white noise.
Right.
Exactly.
Speaking of, you know, needing positive thoughts, what do you guys think of Carter Hart's exit interview?
I didn't even really write anything down on Hart's exit interview. Like I feel like it's the same every year with him. And I hate saying that. I'm not souring on him. But man, just we need you to get your stuff together.
Got to put it together. Like
Yeah.
I mean, he's only 23, so I guess like he doesn't have to, but like his stock's starting to
Right. Well, he's 23, but he's been a pro at at the end. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's time, man.
Yep. Agreed.
Yeah.
It's all coming together for next year, boys.
Hope, baby. Hope.
Did you notice the one thing
Run it
where
back.
to Cam Atkinson when they asked him about Tortorella?
He was all
Interesting.
in
He was like, I effing love that guy.
for it. Yeah,
Right.
He dropped that name pretty quickly.
Right.
I'm not opposed to it. Now, I've been wanting this guy behind the Flyers bench for a while.
It'd be interesting.
It would be interesting.
To say the least.
I think Tortorella will only come here if they're you have like a legit NHL roster that's ready to win.
You pay him enough money, he'll be here tomorrow.
Not if it's a team like we just had. If you're just adding onesies, twosies, that's not going to help propel this team. He's not coming here. There's no way.
It's the art of selling. Chuck Fletcher, Dave Scott, whoever it is, has to sell Tortorella on the idea that this team is going to be completely different next year.
I mean, he did take a job with Columbus.
Yeah, that tells you all you need to know.
It's not like
True.
it's
Is it lowering your pedestal in Columbus?
I'm not holding to a pedestal there, but this team is completely different than those teams back then. Like, come on.
Well, no, look, he had some good teams with the Rangers. There's no doubt about that. But like, did he really do a ton with Columbus? Like, I think they were better with him.
I mean, they played hard.
Yeah.
Right. They play hard. Didn't they sweep Tampa? They were the one.
Yeah.
Tampa was the one seed.
Mhm.
I think he got more out of that team than people expected him to.
And that's what we want ultimately, because it seems like there's too many nights where the Flyers are just going through the motions. So if you get a coach that can light that spark underneath them, get them playing motivated hockey and get them running and rolling and ready to go every single night, I think that's a successful first step.
Right.
There was a quote a couple weeks ago from Giroux, and I guess he got benched in the third period of a Florida game. Like he was like, yeah, I got benched, but he was like,
No, that didn't actually happen.
You fell for it, didn't you? You
Oh,
fell
no.
for the evil
That was
gritty
fake?
quote.
That didn't happen.
Oh, all right.
No, I'm totally tagging Evil Gritty in this because you know who else got? Who
Oh,
else,
all right.
Yeah.
what's his name got it? Got fooled for it.
What was it? The big
Biz Nasty. Biz
yeah, Biz
fell for
Ah,
it.
all right. Well,
Yep.
I feel like it.
spitting chicklets. Yeah,
Sorry.
they fell for it.
All the fake news out there.
They get the big guys and the little guys. Son of a gun. Now, that is honestly one thing towards the end of the season that I enjoyed, were the fake quotes from that guy.
Oh my god!
Just like the fake Giroux quotes where
Phenomenal.
it's like, I never knew what it was like to play on a successful team, and I'll tell you what, I never want to go back, or like just stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's the funny stuff, and it just makes you laugh because you're like, I could totally see him thinking this. Like,
Right.
there's the realism to it.
And part of you like starts getting angry that you think it's real, and then you see who tweets it. And you're
Oh, I
like,
thought it was real. Now I'm angry.
Exactly. Objective complete.
Touche.
No. It was he got a couple people with that, but in terms of just overall, like, I guess this is another small thing, but they asked Konechny, Farabee, and Lindblom respectively if they were going to be taking part in Worlds, and it kind of threw me through a loop because I'm like, Team Canada wants Konechny on their team, like US I could maybe understand, Sweden, like, but I don't know. I mean, playing for their country after the season that they all had, I'm kind of like,
why would they want? I don't know. Why would they want to deal with that?
Farabee shot it down right away. He's like,
Oh,
"No,
yeah.
I'm rehabbing my shoulder. I'm
Yep.
not doing anything stupid to
Konechny
race
too.
next season."
Konechny was like, I'm a dad. Like, I'm going to be at home with the
Yeah.
kids, spending time with my.
Right.
I think he has a daughter.
Don't
yeah.
call me daughter.
I got other words I like to call you.
The
But it makes sense. Like, Lindblom just confused me because I like him, but to play in Worlds, I don't know if he's that caliber player currently.
Right.
It depends on what pond you're fishing in,
True.
right?
I
Like,
mean,
A
we're
lot of
talking
the
Team Sweden here.
A lot of the questions that they asked were just like, why are you asking this? Like,
yeah,
the-
but
the
that's
one
what
that-
these things are.
but the one that infuriates me is like, did Chuck and everybody tell you where the team's going next season? Like,
Chuck
we're not
talks,
having that conversation right now.
Chuck and Mike Yo, I think, talk Tuesday. So we'll hear about that
Yeah.
here tomorrow. Or
Mike Yo,
for
that'll
those of
be
you listening
awkward.
today. Man, I'm surprised nothing's been done yet, like move wise. But maybe they're like waiting for the press conference, and Mike Yo is going to be like, "Yeah, they hired me full time," or "No, I'm going. I'm out of here."
What would your honest reaction be if they're like Mike Yo's the coach? I know we're like, oh, players seem to like him. I'm going to be supremely disappointed, quite
It'd
frankly.
be like that gif from San Andreas, like, "Oh shit, here we go again." Like,
Yeah.
I'll tell you, the only way I wouldn't be disappointed if it's attached with, we have decided that we are going to take more of a rebuild approach, and we're going to
Yep.
see what we're going to get out of this young group,
Mhm.
right? And we're going to, in 2 years kind of reevaluate, because if it's like, okay, we're going the youth movement, we're going to see what we have, then okay, whatever. I mean, are you
Right.
going to
It
have
lends some
him or like a
flexibility.
Dave Hackstall type? Like, I'd rather just keep him. But if it's, hey, we're aggressively retooling and we think Mike Yo's the guy, then yeah, I'm with you, KCO.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think if we hire Yo, it definitely gives you. It tells you where we're going. Like we're heading more towards that rebuild.
No,
Exactly. Nowhere. We're not bringing anything to Broad. That's for damn sure.
do any of you have like preferred coaching candidates, like people that are kind of on your radar? I mean, Derek, I know Tortorella, but
even then, like, I'm not going to be upset if they don't pick Tortorella unless it's just some random no name that no one knows. They go
Right.
the whole, what was it? Was
Dave
it Sheldon
Haxtell.
Keefe when he was? Everybody's like, Sheldon Keefe should be the next coach of the Flyers. I'm like, your analytics told you that?
right.
Yeah, like he can do that with Toronto, but Christ, anybody could at this
Right.
point.
I mean, the only other name I've heard out there is Tocchet,
Mm.
but like,
Yeah,
I'm also like, didn't he get fired by Phoenix?
yeah.
Like that's tough.
Well,
That's
I
a rough
like
one.
I like Paul Maurice. He's
Yeah,
a
where
name
That
that
name a
where'd
lot.
he-
he's from Winnipeg.
I don't know if he's coming back to hockey right now, though.
Well, yeah, but I mean, he keeps getting mentioned. So,
yeah.
I mean, maybe with him, it was more of a, this thing in Winnipeg just isn't working anymore. But then there was the guy from Dallas who ended up leaving because he had some. No,
coming back.
Jim Montgomery.
Jim Montgomery, yeah.
Like that team was good under him, but then he had to leave the game. I think it was substance issues or alcohol or something. Without, but he seems to be back, and interested in joining. Like I would like somebody like that. Where it's like they've clearly had successful teams, but they don't have the huge name where it's like,
right.
With AV, you thought you were getting a Stanley Cup.
Yeah, of course.
Jokes
we
on
all
us.
Once again. If there's,
we got all off season, buddy.
Well, I'll go to you first about this, though, just summarizing your thoughts on exit interviews. Like, is there anything you'd like to add just overall as to what you heard, what you saw?
I mean, I always try to take these things with a grain of salt. The Ellis was the thing that I wanted to hear, and I heard it. I think that my opinion on Ivan Provorov is becoming more solidified, not on who he is, but just whether or not he should be with this franchise moving forward.
Sure.
And then everything else, I like Ristos. It was like 3 minutes.
Oh, short answers, perfect.
Oh, and he was like, "What are you talking about?" Like that was like somebody asked like an incredibly long question. He's like, "I don't know what you're saying." Like,
Hoagie, anything you're taking away from all these exit interviews?
In agreement with John, I'm happy with Ryan Ellis. I think he'll be a pivot for this team next season, just pushing us in the right direction. I'm just cautious about next season altogether. It's just tough. I got myself and everybody included, we got way too excited last offseason with all the moves, and looking good on paper doesn't prove anything.
We'll do it again. We will do it again.
Run it back, baby.
Only once. All right, Matt Casey, your takeaways from all this.
A couple. One, Ellis and Atkinson, clearly, in my mind, the defined leaders and who should be the leaders of that team. Number two is I wish like some of the guys would just like show up and shower and put a collared shirt on or something like that for these interviews, because they all look like freaking bums. But number three, I think it's got to be tough, man. You just spent 4 months of playing meaningless hockey.
Yeah.
And that's gotta wear on you. And so, good for them for showing up. Good for most of them for putting on a good face. But that's a tough room to go in front of. 2 days after laying a complete egg for the second year in a row.
Sure. Right. Yeah, that's it. Everybody just seemed demoralized, and rightfully so. Bad season. Nobody was thrilled to have to talk to the media after that season. So I get it. I understand it. My only hope is that they can try to string something together next year, and we'll see how that unfolds here in the offseason. But before we get to the offseason, we have playoffs to talk about.
Let's talk about some winners.
Let's talk about some good hockey teams and some good hockey games that we're going to get to watch that I personally can't wait to stop talking to you three schmucks and go start watching. But first round here. Yes, I count myself. I am a schmuck. Let's start with the Western Conference here. Let's break this down. Predictions. We'll go first round, and then when the second round kicks off, maybe we'll or do we want to go the entire thing?
No. Let's just quickly do our predictions for the first round. Yeah.
Okay. First matchup, Colorado.
Johnny
Nashville.
wants sleepy.
I'm not going through the whole Stanley Cup playoffs right now.
Well, you can leave them. The rest of us big boys will go through them.
I wouldn't do this either.
I don't.
Hoagie and I will go through them then.
That's going to be riveting.
Wasn't this John's idea?
This was John's idea. Now he's trying to put the kibosh to it. What a team player. Thanks, Ivan.
Stick to hockey, please.
This is hockey. Anyways,
right, come on. Let's
first
go.
matchup. I was trying before you wouldn't shut the hell up. Colorado, Nashville, first round. John, you go first since you're just chomping at the bit.
I mean, if Nashville's goalie wasn't out for the first 2 games, I would at least tease it a little bit, but Colorado's blowing them out.
Hoagie,
Colorado.
Matt
Are we
Casey.
saying in what games? I'm going Colorado in 5.
Colorado in
Yeah,
5.
I'll
my
Colorado
pick.
in 5 as well.
Colorado in 6.
6. Ooh. All right then. Next matchup, and probably the best out of the West, in my opinion, Minnesota and St. Louis.
Yeah.
Let's go reverse order. Matt Casey, who you got? How many games?
I'm going St. Louis in 7.
Hoagie.
Minnesota in 5.
5?
Screw it.
I'm going Minnesota, but in 7.
I'm with Casey. St. Louis in 7. Next matchup.
Minnesota in 5.
Calgary and Dallas. John Gove, winner, and in how many games?
Calgary in 5.
Hoagie.
Calgary in
Dallas in
6.
4. Oh. Casey.
I'll throw it. I'll go Calgary in 4. Sweep for Calgary.
Ooh.
There you go.
I'm going Calgary 6.
I think actually, really quick, I think they're the scarier team in the West for
Agreed.
playoff hockey.
When we get to second round predictions,
Yeah.
we'll go further into that. Last matchup in the West, Edmonton and Los Angeles. Matt Casey, who you got and how many games?
LA in 6. I have no reason to base this off of anything. I just don't want to see Edmonton win anything.
Hoagie.
I'm going LA in 7 only because I felt like LA was going to be trash this season, and now they're in the playoffs.
And
Solid
I'm also going LA in 7 more because Edmonton is just one of those teams that always underperforms when it means the most.
That is my exact reasoning for picking LA in 7. Absolutely. All right. Swinging on over to the East. Interesting matchups. First one being Florida and Washington. So Flyers South against the Caps. John Gove, who you got? How many games?
Caps will win a game. Florida in 5.
Hoagie,
Florida in 5.
Matt Casey,
Florida 6.
Florida 4.
Mm.
Break out the brooms, baby. It's not going to happen, but whatever. Next matchup, Toronto and Tampa Bay that just kicked off here Monday night. Matt Casey, winner in how many games?
I'm going Toronto in 6. They're actually going to win a playoff series.
Ooh, Hoagie.
Toronto in 7, baby. Let's go.
Oh, hell. John, come on, man.
I'm
me some.
gonna go Toronto in 5.
I'm the only one picking Tampa here.
So my reasoning with this is because I think at some point this team is too good to not win a playoff round, and Tampa's just got to be spent, right? Like, and I went 5 just because I wanted to do the Hoagie tribute.
You're welcome.
I just
FYI, Toronto's up 3-0 with 10 minutes left in the second. So halfway.
it's one game. Relax.
I'm just saying, dude.
Tampa in 7. Book it. Carolina and Boston. John Gove, winner, and how many games?
Carolina in 6.
Hoagie,
Ditto. Carolina in 6.
Matt Casey.
Carolina 5. Boston's garbage.
Right on. Carolina, 6 games. This one here, I'm going to hate watching it, but I think it's going to be the best of them all.
Ugh.
New York Rangers against the Pittsburgh Penguins. For one last time, Matt Casey, who's winning and in how many games?
Oh God, I wish they would just drop a bomb on this arena.
Both
That's all in
arenas.
favor. I'm going Rangers in 7.
Mm-hmm. Hoagie?
Rangers in 5.
Wow.
Ooh.
Is
Jonathan?
Jerry in goal, or is he still hurt?
That's a good question. Shoot.
Because if Jerry's hurt, then Rangers in 5.
Yikes. I'm going Pittsburgh in 7.
I can't, like, That is like
I hate it.
that is the two most hated teams in my life.
Yep.
Yep.
And I honestly am rooting for Pittsburgh just because
Of
I'm in New York.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was thinking,
Also, if we're rooting for New York, we're rooting for a team that's already beat us in a rebuild. So I don't like that. I just
Right.
don't like it.
right.
It's just an arrogance.
It's the New York mentality for some
I
of
don't-
those.
I don't
Not
know.
all you guys. I love you too, but
But
piss me
not,
off sometimes.
I'm not from New York. John's not from New York. Like we just
Right.
happen to live in the
New
third
York.
city in the world.
you've adopted the persona of a New Yorker, and I just
What the hell is that supposed to mean?
don't like you. Like Sidney Crosby, just don't like you.
Oh, fuck you, huh?
All right. Well, before this gets any more out of hand,
This guy doesn't know.
Mama
This
Lou.
guy.
Guy.
all right, Hoagie, you got a dad joke for us this week?
Absolutely, Derek. You can't answer it because I sent it to you already.
Oh, that's right.
You vetting your dad?
Derek,
No,
Derek, I was thinking about putting this one on the show. What do you think of it?
I was hammered on Saturday night and sent it to Derek.
It is Derek approved.
Why is it illegal to do reverse cowgirl in Alabama?
I don't know. You could explain what reverse cowgirl is for our listeners or no?
We are explicit, so
You can't turn your back on family, guys.
I don't know if it's a dad joke, but it was a good one.
Banjo on my.
I don't care.
That's not a dad joke. That's
that's a bad joke. That's
so
good.
really funny. Before we go,
Nope, sorry, that's it for us. You
My
guys
wife-
have a wonderful rest of your week. Bye now.
Bye now.
Hey, shut up. So we were shopping at a BJ's. I don't know if you guys have those by you, but they're like the
Been a while since I've
wholesale.
gone to BJ. Going to a BJ's.
They're like wholesale, like Costco. I don't,
Like a
So
Sam's
anyway,
Club.
Yeah, yep. So you always spend a lot of money there, right? Because it's all in bulk. So Carrie goes to me. She's like, that was a little bit more expensive than I wanted. And she says to me, we got diverse paper towels. At least that's what I heard. Diverse paper towels. And I'm like, what do we get? Like multicolored paper towels? Like what the like this just doesn't seem like a Carrie
red and this one's
Carrie
yellow.
move, like with tan ones. I'm like,
It looks like an
diverse
old-
paper towels. I'm like, what are you doing? Buying diverse? She goes, diapers and paper towels.
Like your paper towels look like an Old Navy commercial.
Right. What is all right? I mean, the world we're living in, I would not be shocked if we got rid of the white paper towels, but
Oh. All right. Well, with that being said, John, if you'd like to continue and let the listeners know where they're going to be able to find us.
sure. First, you can follow Matt Casey on Twitter at Pod Street Casey spelled out. And you
Hey,
can
that's
follow
Casey. Casey.
Then Hoagie, you want to say your dumb thing? Nope. All right, good choice. You don't need to follow him on Twitter. Anyway, you can find this podcast on all your various podcast listening receptacles, included but not limited to Apple Music, Spotify, Amazon Music, Spreaker, Stitcher. Would you hear the dog in the back do the little ear shake thing? Sounded kind of funny, yeah. Pocket Casts, iHeartRadio.
No.
I'm sorry, buddy. Google Podcasts, YouTube, and anything else that has the old podcasts on it.
If you're going deeper than that, then like kudos to you for finding stuff that nobody else knows about.
Do we really appeal to the hipster crowd that would be looking at those types of apps? Question for next
Yeah.
episode.
Hoagie
Let's put
brings
up a
in all
poll.
the hipsters.
Pod Muncher.
There's one. There it is. Anyways, you can find us on Twitter at PodSTBullies. You can find me on Twitter, PodStreetBob. Check out our affiliates, Flyers High and Wide, 5 Minute Major as well. Check out their podcast dropping every week. Until then, folks, we'll be back next week with more of the same.
Bye now. Bye now. Bye now.
Bye now.
Bye now.